That's a good thing, not a bad thing. That's a good thing, not a bad thing. That's a good thing, not a bad thing. I got along well with Putin, she could Kim Jong-un. That's a good thing, not a bad thing. It's been a pretty while when you think about it. You get impeached for doing nothing wrong, and you get a second impeachment for doing nothing wrong. I had a great life, great company, great business, and now all I do is fighting off investigations. I got along great with President Putin. I liked him. He liked me. That's a good thing, not a bad thing. 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 I got along well with Putin, Xi, Kim Jong-un. That's a good thing, not a bad thing. It's been a pretty while when you think about it. It was a good thing, great thing. As far as North Korea is concerned, I have a great relationship with a certain man that's got great power over North Korea. I like him, he likes me. You take a look at Kim Jong-un and the relationship that I developed. That's a good thing, not a bad thing. That's a good thing, not a bad thing. That's a good thing, not a bad thing. I got along well with Putin, Xi, Kim Jong-un. That's a good thing, not a bad thing.
This is the Truth Frequency Radio Network. TFR. Truth Frequency Radio.
Here we go, hour one. And greetings, Earth Explorers. Welcome to X Squared Radio. I'm your host, Brooks Agnew, coming to you live from an undisclosed location east of the Appalachian Mountains. This is where the past meets the future. In here, the results are always positive. We might go a little past your imagination, but have no fear. You will be safely traveling with us. Tuning in here will treat, cure, and prevent the disease of ignorance. We're streaming to you live on the Truth Frequency Radio Network, out audio to AM stations all over the world, and we're also streaming on video on Foxhole, Twitch, Facebook, DLive, Twitter, YouTube, Rumble, and Rockfin. So if you can't find America Free Radio, you're not looking, because we're everywhere. Wednesday night, this last week, I was on Coast to Coast AM with George Norrie. 20 million people, 605 radio stations, and it was awesome. We talked about the Nephilim and how they're controlling, to this very day, the global syndicate. If you missed it, you should go back and listen. We'll cover a little bit of it tonight, but I think most of you who already listened to this program know the story pretty well. I would also like to welcome about 750 more people that registered for my newsletter, which will go out tonight. It goes out every Sunday and every Wednesday night. It's free. That means it doesn't cost anything. We include lots of goodies, including a link to this program if you missed it or want to share it with a friend, highlights from the program, and links to special deals. Of course, I still have 2 discount tickets for the Mount Shasta Summer Conference. Just two left. The rest are all sold. After that, the price goes up, and you'll be buying directly from the venue. I'll change out the button as soon as I sell 2 more tickets. So, you want to see me this summer? That's the place to be. And Mount Shasta's pretty cool. Pretty red, too. Welcome, everybody, in the chat room. It's too full. Top Drifter, Baba Susie, Blue Water, Eric. Andres is there. I have a bunch of people. Alan is there. Going to be here the entire program. That's good. You showed up on time. Those of you that know my personal cell phone number, you can also text me. My phone is right over there, and I will watch it out of the corner of my eye, as well as all of these chats and the chat on Foxhole. So you're connected. You're connected with me. Let's see. We'll keep YouTube with us for a little while. We love our YouTube subscribers. We have about 20,000 YouTube subscribers. We love the notifications that go out. We like our family at YouTube. Unfortunately, as you know, Google routinely violates our civil rights by censoring some of our content, and so we will censor them when we get to the more interesting material tonight. So just know that if you got the notification on YouTube and you're signed up and you're listening now, you won't be for the entire 3 hours. Okay? You're going to have to make a switch over to one of these other fine free speech platforms. And to get there, all you have to do is open up the description right down there. Yes, right there where it says more. Click on that, and that will expand, and you'll see the links to all these other fine formats. And if you're not familiar with them, it's time. It's time you got familiar with them. All right, let's start, because there's a ton of stuff in the news. And this begins the news week. Tonight, Sunday night, begins the news week. Tomorrow morning at 6 o'clock in the morning on Sirius XM, Alex Marlowe will pick up the mic with Breitbart Radio, and he believes he's starting the news cycle, but he doesn't. It starts the night before, right here on America Free Radio, and you're here with me. And you can bring all your friends if you want. So let's start with energy policy, because after all, isn't that what this is all about, right? It could be more. I have a special video report from our man on the ground in Ukraine tonight. I'm going to show it to you. You have not seen it. You have not heard it, unless you listen to my radio program on Saturday night with Mike Ibarra. I played the audio to it. Tonight I'm going to play the video to it, and you're going to see it and hear it, and you're going to know the truth of what's going on over there. And don't listen to the hotties on TikTok saying, I'm Ukrainian, I'm telling you the truth, this is the facts from the ground. Don't believe that at all, okay? All that's propaganda. I'm going to tell you the real stuff. Deborah Pollard, good to see you out there. Greetings and salutations. She's in Memphis, Tennessee. Very cool, way over on the western side of the state. Very cool, overlooking Mud Island. That's awesome. And 86 trolls out there. And real Bernaise sauce. That is so cool. That's a great handle. I like that. You know what mine is? Not on there. I don't chat under this handle. It's my CB handle. It's Noble Surfer. That's me, Noble Surfer. All right. Let's talk with energy policy can actually start a war. Now, who would have thought that holding crude oil and natural gas hostage would start a war? I did. I told you that when oil hovers around $35 a barrel, China is very happy because they buy oil from the world markets. India as well. Russia is mildly happy because more than half their GDP comes from oil and gas, and they sell to Germany and the rest of Europe. And they have for a long time. When oil gets cheap, prices go down because costs go down and profits can balance out the loss in revenue. But when oil gets above $65 a barrel, China and India get pissed off. Prices go up. OPEC and Russia make out like bandits. And when Russia and Iran have tons of money, guess what they do? They build weapons. Virtual Joe and his gang of criminals have crushed the Roaring Twenties. It's done. Unless a miracle happens, we're not going to get through the 20s making a lot of money. Now, the Green New Deal is the same as the old New Deal that destroyed America in 1933. Same one, same people, same organization. Renewable energy has taken center stage in the global fight against climate change. You might as well be Don Quixote, mounting your horse, gathering your lance, and going and charging windmills, because that's how crazy climate change is. The energy crisis in Europe is all man-made, and it's highlighted some of the challenges the world is facing in this, let's just call it a global energy transition. It's a transition. And it's become increasingly clear that fossil fuels are going to remain a key part of the energy mix for decades to come. Okay, the internal combustion engine is here to stay. Except if you follow me on Facebook, there's this guy on North Carolina motorcycle riders. I belong to the Facebook group. And this guy carved out of mahogany and other woods, he carved a Harley-Davidson motorcycle. It's beautiful, all out of wood. And I made the comment that it had an external combustion engine. Yes, exactly. External combustion engine. I'm just saying. All right, so in 2018, there were some people on the metal miner team, and they attended the premier aluminum conference in Europe. At the time, I think it was the latter part of 2017 and the first 4 months of 2018, I was in the high pressure aluminum die casting business. I was doing a quality contract for a Fortune 85 company, Fortune 85. And they had two locations, one of them in South Carolina and the other one outside of Chicago in Illinois. And they were both having really bad quality problems. And as you know, this company that was the customer is into air brakes on big trucks. Okay, and they have to work, and they have to work right. It's a big deal. So the quality issues obviously needed to get fixed because somebody was losing money and defects were making it into the field, and it was just not a good deal. So they brought me in. I found the problems. I fixed them in South Carolina, and I had moved up to Chicago and was fixing it up there. About this time, President Donald Trump began putting tariffs against China. Why? Because China was dumping substandard metal into our markets. Oh, it was cheap. It was cheap and everyone was buying it. And it was labeled, 99.99% pure, but it wasn't. It wasn't. It had impurities in it. And so the issue was that President Trump said, you're either going to give us top quality metal or we're going to put tariffs on it and we're going to have this trade balance. Well, listen, when you got a Fortune 85 company and they're buying enough aluminum to float a battleship, okay, to sink a battleship, they get really worried when the price of aluminum is going to go up a nickel or a dime or 20 cents. And they think, oh my gosh, the cost of all of our goods all the way to the OEM and the jobbers is going to cost more because the aluminum is going to cost more, because it's going to force the company to start buying American aluminum. Well, guess what happened? Yes, it's true, the cost went up a little bit to buy, but the quality was so good that the issues we were having with porosity, which you're always chasing in high-pressure aluminum die casting, this is tiny little bubbles that are trapped in the aluminum because it goes into the mold so fast, like just under the speed of sound fast, because it has to get into position before it ices up. It's not like plastic where it'll all flow nice and behave itself until it gets in there and then you can cool it and it becomes solid again. Metal doesn't work like that. It freezes in a millisecond, so it's got to get in there, and you can't push it too fast because if it gets to the speed of sound, well, of course, it breaks the sound barrier and then explodes, and you don't get a good part. And there are a lot of other problems with high-pressure aluminum die casting. It is hot business, and the plants are not clean because you have a lot of aluminum fumes in the building. Yeah, it's like worse than aluminum cookware as far as getting aluminum in your system. But I digress. The point is that during this time that Metal Miner team was attending the premier aluminum conference in Europe, I was also in the aluminum business. That's why this story attracted me. So although Dusseldorf felt like a charming Ohio blue-collar town with good beer and sausage and sauerkraut, one of them left the event with a deep cough. Obviously, pre-COVID, right? 2018, which I would say I was in Chicago for I was there for 5 months. 2 months in, I caught the flu. I mean, I caught the flu from hell. And I went to the hotel, and I said, well, I'll just wait this flu out, whatever. Not many people in a hotel anyway. So I got some over-the-counter stuff that you normally get, to fight a fever, some Aleve and some Benadryl and whatever, and I hit the bed and turned the TV on. I got to tell you, folks, it's as close as I came to cashing in my chips. About 5 days into it, the fever finally broke. I was so weak. I walked across the street to eat breakfast one morning, and I got the breakfast down me, and I walked back to the hotel, and it was like all I could do to get across the street to the hotel, and it was cold as crap. It was about 13 degrees. So I said, well, that's it for me. I'm going to the Dock in a Box. So I get in the car. I drive down to the Dock in a Box. I wait in the room. I go inside. He said, yeah, we're seeing a lot of this. Take this, this, and this, and here's an inhaler. Go back to the hotel. Well, about 3 days later, I was feeling like 90% better, although I was only back to about 60%. Whatever got this guy in Dusseldorf got me in Chicago. It was rough. Thought I was going to do it. But nobody knew anything about COVID then. Okay, this was 2018, not 2019. Now, oddly enough, the Weather Alert app kept displaying daily ozone levels in the high or extremely high range in Dusseldorf. And as a puzzled American, he appeared kind of confused. And on the other, thankfully, knowledgeable hand, he knew what was going on. The cough comes down to a type of energy that's now used in Germany extensively. And you know why? Because activists have made them shut down their nuclear power plants, the clean ones that have no pollution at all. They have a little bit of nuclear waste each year, and that goes into a waste stream that's useful. But the activists shut it all down. So Germany's been using coal, the same as China. I was on the 24th floor in a hotel in Shanghai, doing some business there. And besides looking out over the city at night and seeing arc welding everywhere I looked, there was construction going on everywhere in Shanghai. Of course, it's the world's largest city. But the other thing that I noticed is this fairly modern, fairly new 24-plus floor hotel. The glass on the outside was etched with acid rain from the coal. Lots of coal burning in China. So this metal miner's European colleague quickly explained that after the Japanese Fukushima nuclear disaster, Germany implemented a plan to shut down all its nuclear power plants. And they had a number of them, no later than 2022, which is this year. Now, that decision, of course, Germany, a modern industrial, world-leading technological country, was foolish. It was foolish and it was ironic. Foolish because Germany had lost its negotiating power with Russia, for which it relies on natural gas now. It's ironic because the country already had clean energy. They were already a clean country. They already had blue skies. They already had clean water. They already had clean rivers and streams. But now it had to turn back to dirty energy in order to avoid the blackouts. In the meantime, while the world watches the Russian invasion and also the impact of sanctions back and forth, which are all backfiring, the metal miner analyst team discussed Europe's energy situation and the impact on various metals markets. Because energy equals metal, and metal equals industry, and industry equals jobs and cars and wire and steel and copper and everything. So on the stability of the electrical power grid in Europe, and Europe has about 365 million people in it. They still speak a lot of different languages. They want to act kind of like one country with no borders and one currency, but they're not. They're not. Have you ever stood in a field and like felt a constant breeze for hours with no interruption at all? Like if you live in North Dakota or Nebraska or something. Not many people have. If you think wind comes and goes, how about relationship with other countries like Russia? Perhaps one can conclude that renewables serve best as supplemental energy sources, not the primary ones, okay? Sort of like, well, you know what I'm talking about. When Texas needed to fly helicopters with jet fuel derived from oil to thaw out windmills, clearly the grid did not perform as planned, right? This begs the question, will the move to green energy continue? And will it pull up the metals price needed to support green energy initiatives? If the trend does not continue, one might expect a sharp reversal for several metals. Now, the wind sometimes doesn't blow. The sun sometimes doesn't shine. And when these two forms of work do not exist, then there's no form of energy from those, right? There's no electricity being generated. So you have to have a fallback. And what they're saying is, well, fall back on natural gas. And what should be said is, well, why don't we have nuclear power as our primary, natural gas as our backup, or to get things started, and solar and wind as a supplement. That makes a lot of sense. That's what we're doing here in North Carolina. Home and commercial generator manufacturer Generac. I'm sure you've seen their stuff, right? They sell it. You can buy it for about anywhere from $800 to $8,000. You can put a generator on your house that when the power goes out, the Generac turns on and your freezer doesn't miss a beat. Businesses use them as uninterruptible power supplies. You see them running at malls and hospitals and things like that, right? Generac. And they've seen a huge uptick in home generator sales. Well, they're not green. They run on diesel fuel. They run on natural gas. Some of them even run on gasoline. Even one of the analysts that we spoke with recently purchased a natural gas generator from Generac to shore up a weaker local power grid. And CEO Aaron Jagfeld confirmed rising sales in Russia and Ukraine by stating, we're seeing interest in Russia and Ukraine, which arguably might be related to some of the security concerns short term. Nobody wants to lose a freezer full of meat. Now, of course, this represents a sign, all right? This is like writing on the wall that people know, even though it doesn't happen very often. They might have lived in the same house for 10 or 15 years. Probably hasn't happened twice or three times in all those years. They know that the grid doesn't look sustainable. Yeah? It looks vulnerable. And the green narrative centers around climate change as the root cause of more severe weather, but the other factor relates to the unreliability of green energy and the power companies have failed to make the investments in backup energy sources needed to support the wind and the solar. They're just kind of making the switch. Now, green energy goes down far more often, way more often, than nuclear or coal plants. I worked in a coal-fired plant, ran on natural gas, lit off the coal, transferred over to the coal, and rode that bucking bronc to make steam 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 11 months a year. We only shut down for 4 weeks a year for maintenance. That's it. And it worked, but it was primitive, okay? Cheap and primitive, but, you know, out of all the years that I worked there, the plant never lost dual temp water, not even 1 hour. It was reliable. You know what doesn't happen in Tennessee? The wind doesn't blow. You know what doesn't happen in Middle Tennessee? The sun don't shine. The sun doesn't shine sometimes. Now, it's not North Carolina. We have more clear skies in North Carolina than any state on the eastern seaboard. And yet, I have not had direct sunshine to ride my motorcycle in a month. If the sun does come out, it's still cold. Who wants to ride in the cold? Now, from an alternative investment standpoint, this lack of energy independence, the lack of, sun or wind or some kind of consistent workforce to make that electricity, to help spur the other energy spin-off companies such as generator companies and all that, they're going to keep cranking them out if the fear is there. And another spin-off is going to include the diesel vehicles produced with mobile generators to start to charge cars after they run out of charges on the highway. Nothing's more ridiculously ironic than to see an electric vehicle dead on the side of the road and a diesel-powered vehicle with a generator on it with a big fat cord plugged into that car, sitting beside it, idling, trying to charge that car up enough so it can make it to the next charging station to plug in. That's irony, Earth Explorers. That's irony. And what's really crazy is that that's the case anyway. Somebody asked me one time, what powers the Condor? My Condor, my 100% electric pickup truck, the first one in the country, by the way, and still the most efficient and still the most affordable. Yes, electric pickup truck. You don't believe me? Go to electric-pickup-truck.com. I own the domain. That's my truck. You know what powers it? Nuclear energy. I have a nuclear-powered truck. We'll be right back after this break. Don't go away. 3 minutes.
My hero. That's who I chase. And when I was 15 years old, I had a very important person in my life come to me and say, who's your hero? And I said, I don't know, I got to think about that. Give me a couple of weeks. I come back 2 weeks later. This person comes up and says, who's your hero? I said, I thought about it. You know who it is? I said, it's me in 10 years. So I turned 25 10 years later. That same person comes to me and goes, so are you a hero? And I was like, not even close. No. Why? I said, because my hero is me at 35. So you see, every day, every week, every month, and every year of my life, my hero's always 10 years away. I'm never going to be a hero. I'm not going to attain that. I know I'm not. And that's just fine with me because that keeps me with somebody to keep on chasing. So to any of us, whatever those things are, whatever it is we look up to, whatever it is we look forward to, and whoever it is we're chasing, to that I say amen. To that I say, all right. And to that I say, just keep living, huh?
The reviews for Extendivite are amazing. Here are some from Amazon. By Christine, great for heart palpitations. By Ann, before I started using this product, every afternoon, my ankles and my hands would be swollen. That doesn't happen anymore. So if that part of their advertising is true, I have to assume that the rest of it is also. Not to mention that when I had my yearly blood test, only a few weeks after beginning to use this product, my cholesterol had dropped over 30 points. I'm going to continue to take it. By Croc, I love this product. It really works. By Brad, works great, thank you. Tell us your story. Get your Extendivite today. To order, call 1-877-928-8822. That's 1-877-928-8822 or visit heartdrop.com.
Extend your life with Extendovite.
If there's something you want to achieve, you can achieve any freaking thing you want as long as you know what the goal is. That's why goal posters or goal boards or even just telling someone what your goals are, writing them down is so important, because once you can identify your goal, it makes it so much easier to work towards it. And that's something that I think our children are not being taught in the school system right now, is how to set a proper goal. Like, hey, what do you want to achieve? Well, the teacher gave me these things I want to achieve. Okay, well, what's that going to do for you? Well, I don't know. The teacher said I had to do it. Okay, that's great, but it doesn't teach them the logical thought process or the creative thinking process to develop a goal and then reverse engineer what they need to do to accomplish that goal. And we need more of that true goal setting in our society. Otherwise, we just have a bunch of sheep who have no idea what they're doing. They're just bumbling around. Don't be a sheep, be a goat. They're more creative and adventurous anyways. Be an ornery goat.
This is Truth Frequency Radio.
No hate, no hype, no fear. Real people, real radio.
All right, good to have you all back. I do have a caller on the line in Michigan. Why don't we bring them on, see if they want to talk or if they just want to hang out? Nope, they just want to hang out. All right, that's cool. You can call back. I won't embarrass you. I won't pull you on the air again. I see you're just hanging out listening. But we do have a regular listen line. It's 425-434-2069. There's the number right there if you're watching on the screen. If you're listening on audio, it's 425-434-2069 if you just want to call and listen on the phone. The point I'm trying to make here is that energy has been a reason to go to war in the past. It hasn't for a long time because nuclear energy technology is available to most countries. Not Iran, because we can't trust them with it, but most developed countries can make clean, renewable energy with nuclear power. And when you have clean, renewable energy and it's cheap and reliable, it becomes affordable. And energy drives the overall economy. Okay, it just does. In supplier negotiations, the easiest way to control the process involves gaining leverage. And with nuclear energy, unless you control the fuel, which is kind of difficult to do because unless you want to enrich your own uranium, but if you can't, you can buy enriched uranium for fuel, or you can repurpose nuclear weapons for fuel. There are companies around the world that do this. I write about one in Irwin, Tennessee. It's one of the biggest facilities in the world that takes weapons-grade plutonium and converts it into fuel for nuclear power plants, which once you load up a nuclear power plant, it's usually good for about 3.5 to 4 years. And they run on different things. They run on californium, they run on cesium, they run on, heavy uranium. There's just a lot of ways to do it. And now we see this throughout Europe and to a lesser extent the United States right now because of green pressure by these radicals in the government. The U.S. placed sanctions on Russia but failed to address the oil that they sell us and that they sell Europe. And so they were making money on that, and good money. And it's, in this respect, the U.S., because of Virtual Joe and his gang of criminals, they lost the negotiating leverage with them. They gave up our energy autonomy that President Donald Trump had established for us. And the U.S. then became beholden to despots like Putin and like OPEC, and Russia can choose both to cripple the United States as well as the timing, which couldn't be worse right now. Oil, as we know, is very volatile. That's one of the reasons why we developed the Condor electric truck, because there are segments of transportation in America that, especially municipal fleets that rely on, and of course, defense fleets on base, they rely on steady fuel prices. And when a city council says, okay, you can have, $5 million to replace so many pickup trucks this year, that is supposed to handle the pickup trucks and the fuel and the maintenance, for the life of that truck, which is about 5 years in municipal service. And some areas like, San Jose, or Santa Clara, they have 25,000 trucks in their fleet. Charlotte, Mecklenburg is one of the ninth largest metro in the country, and it has an airport, and it has a lot of trucks in its fleet. And unfortunately, when they get the money from the city council, from the state, from grants, from whatever, and they buy these trucks, and that money's supposed to last for all the fuel and all the maintenance for the life of that truck, it doesn't, because the price of oil goes up 30 to 50% during that 5 years. It can't be relied upon. And so what the city managers have to do is go back to the city council and say, hey, the price of gas went up, and we have to, instead of paying $35,000 this Friday for gas, we had to spend $50,000 this Friday for gas. And you see where the problem is. The city runs out of money. And everybody feels it. Everybody feels it. AutoZone feels it. Advance Auto feels it. Pep Boys feels it. Where they have a driver that goes and delivers parts. Usually he says, oh, well, Ford called, or the two dudes auto shop called, and they need some air filters or a head gasket set or whatever. You only deliver 3 times a day. You put them in the morning delivery, the noon delivery, or the evening delivery, because you can only drive 3 times a day. You have to conserve fuel because you're driving a vehicle 2 miles, 3 miles, 4, 6 miles round trip. That's terrible driving for an internal combustion engine. It wears it out. You barely get it warmed up and you're back at the shop. That's not good driving. The choke is on. You're getting 9 miles to the gallon. It's crazy, especially when fuel's $4.55 a gallon. It adds up in a big hurry. So the Condor, the electric truck, takes that place, and you can operate the truck for, $12, $15 a week, where it normally takes $50 a week. That adds up in a hurry. When you're a company like, say, Napa, which has 6,800 stores across the United States, one Condor at each location would save them $30 million a year in gasoline costs. And you know where that goes? Right to the bottom line, because that's operating expense. That operating expense goes away. See, that's the use of electric vehicles, not consumers. Consumers that jump in their vehicle and drive 35 miles to work, that jump in their vehicle and drive 3 hours to Atlanta or 5 hours to Daytona, that's not the market for electric vehicles. That's crazy. Nothing can beat a gasoline-powered vehicle for efficiency on that. Serious. To say, I want you to take me, 4 of my friends, and all our luggage for a mile up the road, and I'm only going to pay you 5 cents to do it. You're going to get beat up. You're going to get your head bashed in. It's going to cost you more than that, because it does. It probably costs you 27, 28, 35 cents a mile to drive that load, depending on what the speed is and the load is and whether you're stopped at stoplights or running the air conditioner. You know what I'm saying? Electric vehicles were made for that operation. You know, prior to 1912, 70% of all the vehicles in every major city in the world were electric. 70%. Trains, buses, cars, trucks, they were all electric. 70%. That's crazy to think of, isn't it? And women didn't drive gas-powered vehicles at all because they couldn't turn the crank. You know, it was hard to, basically turn a Kickstarter with your arm in the front of the vehicle when you're wearing a dress and it's raining outside or it's 100 degrees outside. They didn't like it. They wouldn't drive them. Plus, if you didn't get that spark advance just right, the darn thing would kick back on you. And if you didn't hold it just right, it might break a finger or break your wrist. Oh, yeah. Happened every day. Every day. Very hard to start those vehicles. Women didn't drive them. They made a lot of noise. They smelled. They were oily. And they were hard to start. And then, 1912, everything changed. Everything changed with a little company called Bendix. Bendix created the electric starter. Yes. So in 1912, they started putting electric starters on gasoline-powered vehicles, and electric vehicles were a thing of the past. It took them 20, 30 years to take all the buses out, because still a lot of buses, even up into the 70s, were electric, run overhead rails. And trains to this day are diesel electric. They have a diesel engine that runs a generator that turns the electric motor that drives the train. That's the most efficient way. And, of course, they burn barge diesel, which is the dirtiest low-grade diesel there is. You can't burn it in a car, but you can burn it in a train just fine. Electric vehicles have been around for a long, long time. The Waverly, all kinds of hummingbird vehicles, beautiful and clean, and they go 12, 15 miles an hour. They don't make any noise, and they don't need any maintenance, and women love them. Yeah, that was 1911. Turn of the century, electric vehicles. So it's not new. It's old. The issue is every business soon learned the economics of gasoline and diesel fuel. When Rudolf Diesel invented the diesel engine, it was designed to run on vegetable oil. You didn't even need to drill. You could grow the oil and pour it right in, and it will run, and it will to this day. You can run a truck on used transmission oil, and it will run just fine. It's designed to do that. So, with the volatile price of oil and the misapplication of electric vehicles, this is the mess we've got ourselves into. And all oil prices can, make up some 30% of the CRB index. A rising oil price might not carry over to industrial metals for a while. It takes a while. And it doesn't apply to the price of individual exchange-traded metals like aluminum and copper and nickel for a while. But eventually it will, because transportation gets in there as well. The 1-2 combination of rising oil prices combined with steep inflation, which is caused by government printing money to pay for things like green energy. Yeah, isn't that crazy how we cause inflation by printing money? Ordinarily, a rising oil price tends to signal rising demand. More people want it, and often a healthy economy. Today, it's exactly the opposite. Rising oil prices are the same as rising electrical prices. If we become more efficient, we have newer appliances, we have a better heat pump, we augment our house with solar or wind or something, and we insulate our houses better, so we use less electricity every year, less kilowatt hours every year on our home, and everybody in our neighborhood does it, and everybody in our city does it. Guess what? The utility doesn't sell as much electricity, but the city electricity or utility wants to make the same amount of money. So you sell less electricity, you raise the price, so you make the same amount of money. That's where the raise comes in. You get more efficient, and they raise the price because it still costs every day to run that plant. And if you're buying less, they're making less, which means they got to raise the price. Isn't that ironic? That's the way it works. So, driving up to 2016, before President Trump reversed everything, we were working ourselves into another energy corner. And then in 2016, Trump said, look, fracking is good, drilling on federal lands is good, building pipelines from Canada to Texas is good, very smart, modern drilling offshore is good. And by the way, in the Gulf of Mexico, they're breaking all records as far as oil production there because they have to. And we were, for the first time in 70 years, that's a long-ass time, first time in 70 years, not only were we energy independent, that is to say, you know, during the Obama years, we bought 64% of our crude oil from OPEC. 64%. And you know where all that money went? It went to ISIS. It went into weapons. It went to destabilize the Middle East. Hell yeah, it did. And guess what they had over us? Leverage. If we started getting too tough on them, they started raising the price. You understand the economics here. Once we became energy independent under President Donald Trump, we stopped buying so much oil from OPEC. Less than 10% of our oil. In fact, we became oil exporters. We were exporting liquid natural gas to Europe. We were exporting oil for the first time ever. And it was due to be that way for a long time. Because you don't just turn on the oil spigot just like that. Drills have to be built, pipes have to be built, tanks have to be built, pipeline has to be built, and it was being built. And it was going to take another maybe 5 to 10 years to get it all done, but the low-hanging fruit was picked during President Donald Trump's administration. And we were doing great. I mean, I was filling up my truck for a little over $25. Not bad. I liked those days, and so did you. And guess what happened? Prices went down because energy costs went down. People were making money. They got a raise because they were spending less of their money in transportation, which meant they could spend their money doing other things. Entertainment, restaurants, Amazon, whatever. Everybody was making money. And then along came Virtual Joe and his gang of criminals, and he shut all that down. First day in office, he shut off the Keystone Pipeline. Then he stopped fracking. Then he canceled all the leases on federal lands. Then he stopped any new oil exploration. And, of course, our usage stayed right where it was. We kept using the same as we've always used, and it didn't take long before, hey, we got to call up OPEC and order some oil. We got to sell our strategic energy reserve. We got to get it into the market to stave off this inflation in fuel. Virtual Joe and his gang of criminals destroyed the energy markets in less than 12 months. And we're suffering because of it. And now we have Europe that's behind the 8 ball, specifically Germany and the other industrialized countries. They don't have the energy reserves to wait Mr. Putin out. They don't have the energy reserves to play that card with Mr. Putin. Mr. Putin is going to say, well, okay, that's all well and good. Listen, when your meat starts thawing out in the freezer, give me a call. you understand the problem. That's why President Donald Trump said, look, don't come whining to me if you have to defend yourself, because if you're not paying your fair share of NATO, guess who's not going to show up on the battlefield? Us. You pay your fair share, we'll stand there with you. And thus they started paying their fair share. So he made the comment, what in the world are you doing? Buying natural gas every single day, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, from a person or a country against whom you need to build such an incredible army to defend yourselves if he ever attacks you. Why are you doing that? You see, it didn't make any sense to him, and it doesn't make any sense today. I got a little bit more on this, but I want to give my condolences to the family of Matthew Perna. Matthew Perna would not hurt a fly. He was a gentleman. He was a loving man. He was a smiling man. He was everybody's friend, and he was a patriot. And he was completely nonviolent. He was a Trump supporter, a MAGA hat-wearing, wonderful person. And he was arrested, not on January 6th, way after, because he was between the velvet ropes taking selfies. He was never accused of violence, never did any vandalism. His government targeted him and destroyed him. And in the end, it was too much. It was too much. Caught in a 19th century dungeon in D.C., Matthew Perna killed himself. His blood is on the hands of Nancy Pelosi, Joe Biden, Chris Wray, that bitch Liz Cheney, and the corrupt Department of Justice. They're going to hell. In December, Matthew Perna, just 37 years old, pled guilty to felony obstruction of Congress and 3 misdemeanor charges associated with his entry into the Capitol on January 6th. He's scheduled for sentencing March 3rd, next week. He was inside the Capitol for 20 minutes. 20 minutes, and his crime was walking around, taking pictures, smiling, loving Matthew. Last week he heard they were going after more charges against him. Couldn't take it. They informed him the other day that they were pursuing additional charges. Couldn't do it. The hope was gone out of him. They tortured him. They put him in solitary confinement. They starved him. They isolated him. And he couldn't take it. And he killed himself. The family says they're heartbroken. And they're angry at everybody. And this is not the first time, and it's not going to be the last time. The J6 prisoners need to be released right now. The death toll will continue to rise if they are not released immediately. Something has to be done. Justice cries from the ground against this committee of whores and pedophiles. I've looked at the case and the accusations against him. They're all trumped up. Killed himself, and I get it. I get it. You know what really makes me mad? The silence from the Republican conservative media. Haven't heard anything out of Ted Cruz. Haven't heard anything out of Rand Paul. Haven't heard anything out of McCarthy. But you're hearing from me. I'm mad about it. And I'm letting you know. You should be mad about it too. All right. Got about 3 minutes in this segment. Let me check, see what the chat room is talking about. Rockfin is rocking away. Thank you so much. Wow. We've quadrupled our viewership on Rockfin, R-O-K-F-I-N. So happy to see you there. That's outstanding. You guys can chat and everything. I'll monitor it. I'll look at it. I promise. Not a big promise because everybody else is on the restream. So, Mr. Giho in Japan, nice to see you out there. Yes, they are all scared. The people that are in prison are scared. We're scared. Me and 500,000 of my friends that were there that day, they haven't knocked on my door. They wouldn't dare. Oh, they want me. They want me on that stand. I'm not pleading guilty to a damn thing. Who does it? Deanie Live? Good to see you there. Yes, well, I don't think they feel like we deserted them. They know that our hands are tied. They know that Virtual Joe and his gang of criminals are trying to make something out of nothing so they can keep Donald Trump from running for president. That's their whole goal. That's what the bitch Cheney is trying to accomplish. Okay? That's what she's trying to accomplish. That's her mission. That's her job. That's why they're paying her, is to keep Trump from running. But it's not going to happen. Trump is running, Trump will win, and we will dominate in November. And we're going to keep them from cheating in this election. The cheat by mail operation is all down right now. It's not going to happen. I've got some more. I've got, Kathleen, don't you worry. I have Ukraine intel you haven't seen. Nobody's seen it. When I show it to you, it's going to blow your freaking mind. All right, let's see how much time we got in this segment. About a minute, all right? So I'm not going to start another segment just right now. I just want to let you know that YouTube is only going to stay with us for about another 4 minutes. And then we're going to say goodbye to them because, as you know, Google routinely violates our civil rights, and we cannot let that happen. And so all of you that are sitting out there on YouTube, make sure you click on the other free speech platforms right there, because as soon as the break music plays, it's night-night for YouTube. All right, then we're going to continue on with our free speech, and we're going to go places. There's the break music. Bye-bye, YouTube.